Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Wuxia. Opening Tianmo Qin, top weapon list. He traveled to the Ming Dynasty and became the young master, Yuan Suiyun, but after a period of time, he realized that the world's rivers and lakes were even more chaotic than he had imagined. The influence of various sects such as the Flower-Moving Palace, the Rakshasa Sect, the Green Dragon Society, and the Money Gang dominates the area. Nantian, Xie Xiaofeng, Yiguchen, Ximen Chuixue, the four great swordsmanship legends coexist in the world. Leaving fragrance on the moon, Chu bandits are handsome, with 4 eyebrows, and Lu Xiaofeng, each leading the way. Which is stronger, Mingyu Divine Skill versus Wedding Robe Divine Skill? Xiao Li Flying Knife versus Round Moon Curved Knife, who is the true supreme sword? Is the deadly 15 swords unbeatable? Alcoholic beauty, joyful world. Everything starts with obtaining the Heavenly Demon Qin from Yuan Suiyun and practicing the Heavenly Dragon 8 tones. The protagonist is expected to cultivate martial arts skills such as Tianlong Bayin, Yanwang Sangeng Xiang, Fuxi Shentian Xiang, Yijian Jieshi, Xuanyin 12 Swords, innate body-breaking invisible sword chi, Senluo Wandao. HunFeilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001 Young Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The bright moon rises to the east, and the sparse stars are scattered. Wuzhen Mountain Villa. A graceful green-clothed beauty walks lightly in lotus steps, walking leisurely. She was holding a gauze lamp in her left hand and a food box in her right hand. Before long, she arrived at a spiritual hall. Today is the 3rd day after the passing of the old owner of Wuzhen Villa, Yuan Dongyuan. According to customs, the children of the deceased are required to wait in the mourning hall for 3 days. During this period, the incense cannot be broken and no one can leave until the body is fully buried in the coffin. And what about Yuan Dongyuan? There is only one son named Yuan Suiyun. The green-clothed beauty came here to send some food to the young master guarding the spirit. Young master, the night is still long. Qin has brought you some food. How about using it while it's hot? After stepping into the solemn and dignified funeral hall, the green-clothed beauty consciously relaxed her hands and feet, walked up to the young man kneeling in front of the coffin, and whispered. Under the flickering candlelight, the handsome and beautiful profile of the young man vaguely caught her eye, indescribably beautiful. I'm not hungry yet, Qing. Please leave your food and go back to rest early. Yuan Suiyun turned his head and smiled slightly. His smile was gentle and friendly, but his lifeless eyes carried an indescribable sense of emptiness, loneliness, and desolation. Qing looked into his eyes and couldn't help but show a hint of regret on his face. The young master of the village was known as a prodigy from a young age, and as he grew up, he was even more skilled in both literature and martial arts, with exceptional talent, refined demeanor, and honest character. The seniors in the martial arts world speak highly of the young master, but they cannot help but secretly sympathize with him. Because when the young master was 3 years old and fell seriously ill, he had already gone blind and became blind. This also adds a heart-wrenching flaw to the flawless hymn. Okay, the maid will go back first. I hope the young master will mourn and take good care of his health. Qin let out a light sigh, put down the food box, and turned back 3 times in a row. After listening to the footsteps gradually fading away, Yuan Suiyun, who was originally calm and composed, suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and murmured to himself. Damn it, when I woke up, I actually traveled through time and became the young master, Yuan Suiyun. Is there anything more outrageous than this? As far as he knows, there are 2 extremely famous blind men in the rivers and lakes depicted by Gulong. One is Yuan Suiyun, and the other is Hua Manlu. Hua Manlu is the 7th son of the Flower family in Jiangnan. He comes from a very wealthy family and has been blind since childhood, but he has not given up on himself. He is still optimistic and cheerful, loves nature, enjoys life, and has a broad mind that ordinary people do not possess. Yuan Suiyun is also a descendant of a noble family, born into a prestigious family, but different from Hua Manlu, who has a bright heart. When darkness chooses him, he also chooses darkness. Under his noble and gentle appearance, there is a hidden ambition to dominate the martial arts world. In order to plunder wealth, he set up a money-selling cave on Bat Island, specializing in auctioning off various commodities that were not available in the martial arts world, such as martial arts secrets, martial arts skills, criminal loot, and so on. Even the confident, bandit commander, Chu Liuxiang admitted that he had at most a 3-point chance of winning against Yuan Suiyun, especially in martial arts. There are a total of 33 types of martial arts in Yuan Suiyun Hui. They are the Big Clap of Japanese greeting guests, the 13 Breezes of Huashan Sect, the Big Handprint of the Yellow Sect Tantrism, the 77 40.9 Hand Returning Wind Dance Lu Sword of Taoist Gu in Beishan, the Arhat Fist of Shaolin Sect, the Flying Cloud Sleeve of Wudang Sect, the Zombie Fist of Qinzhou Yan family, the 5 Tigers Breaking Door Saber of the Ping family in the Central Plains, the authentic Mandarin Duck Leg of the Northern Sect, and the Poison Concealed Weapon of the Tang clan in Sichuan. These martial arts are secrets that are not passed down by various sections. If ordinary people can practice them, they can now be called masters and become famous in the martial arts world. However, Yuan Suiyun practiced and refined every skill, and fully utilized all the martial arts he had learned. This is really a very remarkable thing. Such a majestic posture is enough to make many so-called geniuses, ghosts, and geniuses blush. Having inherited everything from his original self, possessing a prominent family background and powerful martial arts skills, Yuan Suiyun should be very happy, but the fact is exactly the opposite. He is a blind man. This beautiful world of flowers is destined to be lost to him, and he can't see any of the beauties in the world. Unless he can cure his eyes. Ding detected the presence of the host, bound to the Jianghu experience system. 10%. 20%. 30%. 40%. 100%. The Jianghu experience system has been successfully bound, and the newbie gift package is being distributed. The newbie gift package has been successfully distributed. May I ask the host if they should immediately activate the newbie gift package? 002 Tianlong Bayin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yuan Suiyun caused a series of mechanical sounds in his mind to jam for a few seconds. Jianghu experience system. Sure enough, as a time traveler, Golden Finger may be late, but he will definitely not be absent. As for the beginner gift package, the benefit of this free gift, of course, Yuan Suiyun chose to claim it immediately. In the next moment, in Yuan Suiyun's pitch-black field of vision, a virtual panel filled with low-quality mobile game art appeared. Beginner's gift package is currently being opened. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the martial arts. Tianlong Bayin. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the exotic treasure. Heavenly Demon Qin. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the martial arts. Tian Shan Jame Hand. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the exotic treasure. Blood Bodhi X3. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the martial arts. Clone Demon Shadow. Ding, may I ask if the host will immediately receive the reward? Upon hearing the system prompt in his mind, Yuan Suiyun did not choose to claim it immediately. Overall, he is quite satisfied with the 5 items in the beginner's gift package. The only dissatisfaction is probably that the 3 martial arts of Tianlong Bayin, Clone Moing, and Tian Shan Jame Shou are only secret scripts that require self-cultivation, rather than one-click 999 level topping enhancement. This requires a negative review. However, fortunately, there are also treasures like Blood Bodhi in the world, and there are 3 of them. According to the description on the system, Blood Bodhi, also known as Red Heart Bodhi, is said to be an extraordinary fruit that grows in the place where the fire Qilin drops blood. It has the effect of treating serious injuries and increasing power without damage. The first blood Bodhi can increase one's skill by about 30 years. The second one has a halved effect and can only increase one's skill by about 15 years. The third one has been halved again, with almost no improvement. After taking 3 blood Bodhi pills, I will refine all of their medicinal powers, which can increase my martial arts by about 50 years. With my own cultivation level, even compared to those old monsters who have been practicing hard for more than a year, it is not inferior at all. After thinking about it, Yuan Suiyun couldn't help feeling very happy. Next he then looked at the brief descriptions of the other 3 martial arts. Tianlong Bayin is an extremely rare sound wave martial art, which can both fight alone and AoE group damage. If used in conjunction with the Heavenly Demon Qin, it has the power of earth shaking. The Tianshan Plum Folding Hand is one of the unique skills of the Xiaoyao sect. It is intricate and covers a wide range of aspects. Although it only has 3 palm techniques and 3 capture techniques, it covers various changes in weapon techniques such as swordsmanship, knife techniques, whip techniques, marksmanship, grasping techniques, axe techniques, and so on. Any move or martial arts can be incorporated into these 6 plum folding hands and can never be fully learned. No matter what weapon technique the opponent uses, it can produce corresponding skilled hands, seize the enemy's weapon, and ultimately defeat the opponent. In addition, this martial art must be based on profound internal power in order to be cultivated. People with low internal power may mistakenly practice this skill, resulting in mild cases of chaotic breath, severe cases of becoming demonic and dying on the spot. The Clone Demon Shadow is a unique skill of the opposing faction He Lianba in the Magic Sword Life and Death Chess. It can transform countless demon shadow clones, attack the enemy unpreparedly, and be extremely eerie. Not bad, not bad. In solo combat, there is the Tian Shan Jame hand, which breaks through all the weapons and techniques, making it a bare-handed version of the Dugu 9 swords. Although the Tianlong Bayin can also be used in solo combat, it consumes too much true energy. It is still more cost-effective to use this big killing tool in group battles. Coupled with the extraordinary and eerie nature of the Clone Demon Shadow, it can be said that there are basically no shortcomings. But without topping up and strengthening this, it's too unfriendly for newcomers. For someone with poor qualifications, isn't this system equivalent to nothing? Well, it's better than nothing. After all, even if an ordinary person spends their entire life studying a profound martial arts, they may not be able to practice it. Shaking his head, Yuan Suiyun pondered for a moment before studying the specific gameplay of this Jianghu experience system. So this system mainly obtains rewards by accumulating experience values. Among them, when the experience value reaches 1000, it is considered to have entered the first threshold. Afterwards, for every increase of 1000 experience values, you will receive a reward, whether it is martial arts, weapons, or exotic treasures. After the experience value reaches 10,000, it is considered to have entered the second threshold. Afterwards, for every increase of 10,000 experience values, a reward will be obtained. The third threshold is 100,000, the fourth threshold is million, and so on. The higher the experience value, the easier it is to produce good products. Of course, there is no absolute thing in the world. Because this is a random reward, if luck is overwhelming, even when the experience value is very low, it is possible to obtain divine-level martial arts such as the Hun Tian Bao Jian, European Emperor or non-emirate. This is all about looking at the face. The way to obtain experience points is also very simple, such as traveling to 3 mountains and 5 mountains, encountering beautiful women, and battling strong enemy experts. These behaviors can all earn experience points. In addition to experience values, another gameplay of the Jianghu experience system is to unlock achievements. For example, achievements such as, number 1 in the world, Jianghu Overlord, famous at home and abroad, etc., can be successfully unlocked and rewarded after meeting the corresponding conditions. Isn't this just motivating me to take the initiative to cause trouble? Yuan Suiyun thought to himself for a moment, then shook his head and muttered to himself. Forget it, let's make things worse. It can happen anytime. Let's wait until I have mastered the 3 martial arts of Tianlong Bayin, Fantasy Shadow, and Tianshan Plum Folding Hand. The next day, the old owner of Wuzheng Mountain Villa, Yuan Dongyuan, was buried in a coffin, and his son Yuan Suiyun succeeded him as the new owner. Spring has passed and autumn has arrived, years and months have passed, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years have hurriedly passed. My surname is Yuan, and the cursive characters follow the cloud. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The cold wind is like a knife. Flying snow for thousands of miles. A carriage came from the north, and the rolling wheels crushed the ice and snow, leaving 2 long grooves. Li Xuanhuan took a sip of wine into his mouth and looked out at the silver-wrapped world, letting out a sigh of melancholy. This dirty and turbid world probably only appears so clean and pure when it is completely covered by snow, right? At this moment, he suddenly remembered the young man he had just met. The young man was wearing thin clothes. In such weather, he neither brought an umbrella nor a hat. The melted ice and snow flowed down his face into his collar, but he couldn't feel it. His back was still straight, as if no matter how harsh the environment was, he couldn't give in. That boy gives Li Xuanhuan the feeling of being like a lone wolf in the snow. However, he doesn't have the greed and cruelty of wolves, only the loneliness and resilience of wolves. Li Xuanhuan invited the young man to get on the car, promised to take him for a while, and invited him to drink. The young man refused his kindness with resolute determination, without hesitation, but promised to treat him to a drink when he could afford it. This is a clean and pure boy, or a boy with a story. Of course, life is alive, who doesn't have a story? He is also a person with a story. Young master. Suddenly, a deep and powerful voice came from outside, interrupting his chaotic thoughts. With a long sigh, Li Xuanhuan lifted the curtain made of mink skin and looked at the big man driving, asking. Chuanjia. Is something wrong? The full name of the great Han is Iron Chuanjia. He was given the nickname Iron Armor Vitra for practicing his hard skills with an iron cloth shirt. 20 years ago, he was killed in the martial arts world and was saved by Li Xuanhuan. In order to repay his life-saving kindness, he remained anonymous and willingly became a slave. At this moment, upon hearing Li Xuanhuan's question, the bearded man turned around and his sharp gaze, like that of a predatory eagle, instantly softened. Young master, look at that person. He raised his hand and pointed to the front right, whispering in a low voice. Li Xuanhuan looked up in surprise, and a lonely figure quickly caught his eye. That person has a slender figure, wearing a green robe inside and a snow-white fox fur without any color difference outside. He also carries a long cloth bag on his back. Although he can still see what the other person looks like, from his demeanor, he knows that this gentleman is absolutely extraordinary, not to mention, that person walked slowly on the snow, leaving no footprints along the way. Li Xuanhuan also knows a few people who have extremely high lightness skills and the ability to step on the snow without leaving a trace, but they are far from being able to walk leisurely and freely like this person. There are many people in the martial arts world, as well as many ordinary people, but there are very few interesting people. I don't want to meet 2 interesting people shortly after entering the customs, which may be a good omen. Li Xuanhuan thought to herself in her heart. As the distance between the person and the carriage grew closer and closer, Li Xuanhuan also saw the handsome and beautiful face of the other person clearly. Brother, if you don't mind, please get in the car and I'll give you a ride. His words were simple and powerful, and in this endless expanse of ice and snow, his proposal was truly irresistible. Yuan Suiyun is no exception. Thank you very much. After nodding his head, he got on the carriage, and a strong warmth rushed over his face, as if he had walked into warm spring from the depths of winter. Take a sip of the bar. In this weather, taking a sip of liquor into your stomach, there's nothing more comfortable than this. Li Xuanhuan kindly handed the wine jug to his hand. Do you know I'm blind? Yuan Suiyun took the wine jug, but did not immediately drink it. Instead, he took off the cloth bag behind him, placed it horizontally on his knee, and spoke out. I just discovered it. Sorry. Li Xuanhuan's face couldn't conceal a look of regret, and this emotion was not pretentious, but came from within. Yuan Suiyun said indifferently. Oh, there's no need to apologize, I just feel. A bit surprised. Surprise. Li Xuanhuan frowned in confusion. Yuan Suiyun seemed to be able to see his expression, and with a faint smile, patiently explained. Because in recent years, few people have associated me with the blind, and I haven't experienced such special care like you for too long. Although we just met by chance, I can feel that you are a very careful and gentle person. Li Xuanhuan humbly waved his hand. Ha, brother, you're just praising me. After thinking for a moment, he continued. In fact, I admire you very much. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I couldn't have imagined a blind person. Blind people, who can move as freely as my brother, have also developed the unparalleled lightness skill of stepping on the snow without a trace. The various hardships they have gone through can be imagined. There is no other way, in life, one must always strive to live or live better. Fortunately, I have become accustomed to all of this. Yuan Suiyun spoke in a light and casual tone, appearing very free-spirited. As he spoke, he also pulled out the cork and took a sip of wine. His fair face quickly added a hint of blush. How about it? My wine. Li Xuanhuan smiled and asked. After closing his eyes and savoring for a moment, Yuan Suiyun opened his eyes and smiled, saying. Fragrant and strong, stirring the heart and lungs, 3 words, strong enough. Upon hearing this, the slightly curved corners of Li Xuanhuan's mouth became even more pronounced, and even the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes showed a smile. To be honest, the mysterious blind young man's temperament always reminds him of the night sky, deep and peaceful, but it also makes people feel an inexplicable oppression from the bottom of their hearts, as if they can devour everything. Haha, perhaps it's just his illusion. By the way, meeting is fate. I haven't asked for your name yet, brother. Yuan Suiyun said. My surname is Yuan, and the Chinese characters cursive follow the clouds. Yuan. It's so original. 004 Jianghu is a fame and fortune arena. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yuan Suiyun. Yuan Suiyun. Li Xuanhuan furrowed his brow slightly, and after silently reciting a few words in his heart, he suddenly remembered, isn't this the young master of Wuzheng Mountain Villa? Wuzheng Mountain Villa. Divine Sword Villa. Peacock Villa. Wugo Mountain Villa. These 4 known as the 4 great villages in the Jianghu. Among them, Peacock Villa is the most unique one. It is famous for being the treasure of the village and the unparalleled hidden weapon, Peacock Feather. If this object were present, Peacock Mountain Villa would be able to maintain its current transcendent status. The other 3 major mountain resorts are much more similar, each with an immensely glorious past, giving birth to one earth-shattering figure after another. Like Wuzheng Mountain Villa, at its peak, it was once hailed as the top family in the martial arts world. This is a power established by Yuan Qinggu over 300 years ago. The meaning of not arguing is not to argue, but in the martial arts world at that time, no one could argue with him for a day's worth. Since then, there have been many famous heroes from Wuzheng Mountain Villa, and they have achieved countless magnificent things in the martial arts world, so they are admired by people in the martial arts world. As early as more than a decade ago, when he entered the frontier, he had heard of the name Yuan Suiyun. At that time, although the other party was still young, they already had the name of prodigy. Many senior martial artists believed that if it weren't for the jealousy of talent and blind eyes, their future achievements would definitely not be under the third young master of the Divine Sword Villa. Especially in recent years, this young master has gradually faded out of the sight of people in the martial arts world, which is even more lamentable. It is felt that he has passed away when he was young and may not be as good as when he was young. Perhaps he has already disappeared from the public. Now it seems that the fact is exactly the opposite. Undoubtedly, Li Xuanhuan had never seen Xie Xiaofeng, who was said to have a destiny that matched with a sword. When he first held his sword in his childhood, he had already become a sword god and was revered by his clan. But he has already met Yuan Suiyun in terms of lightness skills alone, even this senior in the martial arts world, who has been in the industry for over a decade, is far inferior. I think no matter what, it won't be much worse than that Xie Sen Xiao. Originally, it was the young master of Wujing Mountain Manor in person. Nice to meet you. Yuan Suiyun shook his head and said. Your Excellency is wrong. Oh. What was said wrong? Li Xuanhuan is different and authentic. Yuan Suiyun smiled and said. 3 years ago, I was already the master of Wujing Mountain Villa. Your Excellency called me the young master. Isn't that a mistake? Li Xuanhuan's expression was taken aback, and he immediately realized that 3 years ago, Yuan Suiyun had taken over as the new village head. In other words, the old village head Yuan Dongyuan had already passed away at that time. I have been living outside the Great Wall for a long time, and I don't care about the affairs of the martial arts world. As for the news, it's a bit outdated. It's okay. Yuan Suiyun turned his head and looked at Li Xuanhuan, saying. Yuanmo has already reported passing by his family's door, and as a gesture of courtesy, should you also mention his surname and who? This is nature. Li Xuanhuan smiled and said slowly, my surname is Li, my name is Li Xuanhuan. Upon hearing this name, Yuan Suiyun's eyes lifted and his empty eyes seemed to radiate a different light, but his tone remained gentle and calm. Xiao Li's divine knife is unparalleled in the world. With a single strike, it's not an exaggeration. Li Xuanhuan is indeed a name with enough weight. It's just an empty name. Li Xuanhuan shook his head, obviously not paying much attention to these things. Fake name. After a murmur, Yuan Suiyun smiled faintly and lifted his head again to take a sip of wine, a gesture that was also extremely elegant in his actions. After a moment, he continued to say. Whether it's just a superficial reputation or a great reputation, it's ultimately a name. In this world of martial arts, compared to swords and knives, emotions and righteousness, there are more two words, still name and benefit. How many people have torn their faces, fought their heads, and even shed blood over these two words? This world. After all, it's just a small fame and fortune market compared to a temple. Li Xuanhuan's expression was quite surprised, and he couldn't help but ask. Brother Yuan probably rarely walks around in the martial arts world, why do you have such feelings? Yuan Suiyun's face showed a hint of complexity, and he let out a long sigh, speaking softly. Oh, what's so hard to understand about this? From the moment I came into this world, I was destined to be inseparable from this world. Whether or not I walked in the world, it was the same, so I would occasionally express my feelings and complain. Speaking of which, what do you think about Wujing Villa, Brother Li? After pondering for a moment, Li Xuanhuan gave a more accurate evaluation. The Yuan family in Guangzhou is renowned in the martial arts world and admired by thousands of people. Yuan Suiyun sighed and said. But in the past century, Wujing Mountain Villa has not done anything amazing. Although Yue is still there, people in the martial arts world still admire Wujing Mountain Villa, but the word Wujing is somewhat untrue. 005 Big and Small Goals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Xuanhuan's expression gradually became heavy. He was a smart person and naturally understood the implied meaning of Yuan Suiyun. That's why he couldn't help but sigh. I understand now that children of noble families like you inherit not only innate glory, but also an inescapable responsibility. As the villa master, your responsibility is to lead the Wuzheng Mountain Villa to stand on the top of the martial arts world again, making the word Wuzheng truly true, right? Yuan Suiyun's eyes and eyebrows were all filled with a smile. He lightly nodded and generously praised. Li Tanhua is indeed a hero among people, and her name is well deserved. Li Xuanhuan pursed her lips, pondered for a moment, then looked sideways at Yuan Suiyun's handsome face and said. It's a big taboo to have a simple conversation, but I still want to ask, what exactly do you plan to do? Yuan Suiyun showed a rare hint of seriousness. He spoke calmly. Actually, it's not too complicated, and I just set 2 goals for myself, one big and one small. Li Xuanhuan exclaimed in surprise, may I hear its details? Yuan Suiyun did not play any tricks and slowly stated his 2 goals. The small goal is to win the top position in the weapon list. The further big goal is to dominate the universe and become the true and upright number 1 person in the world. Li Xuanhuan was stunned for a moment, and then said in tears and laughter. Your small goal is not small, but your big goal is even bigger than the sky. Yuan Suiyun said calmly, but I have confidence in myself. Although this is not easy, it is by no means impossible to accomplish. Moreover, things that are too easy, without challenges, there will be less fun. Blind people like me can't experience much fun. Li Xuanhuan fell silent, and no matter what, he couldn't say anything to undermine the other party's confidence. In addition, recalling Yuan Suiyun's calm tone just now, as if he was stating a fact, he had an inexplicable feeling that the other party must be able to say and do it. If you want to win the top spot in the weapon list, you naturally need weapons as well. Your weapons. Are they in this bag? As he spoke, he pointed to the cloth bag lying horizontally on Yuan Suiyun's knees. Yuan Suiyun lowered his eyes, smiled slightly, and his fingers slid gently over the cloth bag. His attitude was even gentler than caressing his lover's skin. That's right, there's a box inside this cloth bag, which contains a piano. What piano? Heavenly Demon Qin. The Heavenly Demon Qin. Li Xuanhuan furrowed his brow once again. The people who use the Qin as weapons in the martial arts world are not necessarily non-existent, but they are definitely rare and rare. In addition, is there a famous Qin from ancient and modern times called the Heavenly Demon Qin? Or is it that there are hidden mechanisms and weapons in this Qin, or are there other swords and weapons hidden? Yuan Suiyun lightly patted his shoulder and interrupted Li Xuanhuan's thoughts with his words. Don't think about it, you probably haven't heard of it before. However, any famous weapon didn't have much fame at the beginning, and my Heavenly Demon Qin is the same. But I believe it won't be long before it will become famous and terrify the world. Li Xuanhuan nodded and said, seeing his words so resolute. Since that's the case, then I have to wait and see. Please. Yuan Suiyun raised his hand and invited him with a pot. Li Xuanhuan smiled and then found a pot of wine from the car. He's such an alcoholic, there's nothing else in the car, but there's definitely plenty of alcohol. Bang. 2 wine pots, lightly touch. Please. The 2 of them drank and chatted casually, discussing culture, geography, interesting stories, and the world of temples and lakes. It can be said that they spoke freely and had a great conversation. It wasn't until the alcohol in the car was drunk and we both felt a bit intoxicated that our conversation gradually decreased. At some point, Li Xuanhuan held a piece of wood in his left hand and a small knife in his right hand, accompanied by the falling debris, half drunk and half awake, carving on it. Although Yuan Suiyun couldn't see, he could also hear what Li Xuanhuan was doing. If nothing unexpected happens, he is carving a portrait of Lin Shirin with wood. Sigh. Li Xuanhuan, if he were a brother, he would definitely have nothing to say, but if he were a lover, then shaking his head, Yuan Suiyun didn't bother him anymore. His eyes were half closed and he leaned quietly against the wooden wall of the carriage, dispersing his thoughts and wandering beyond the sky. Careful calculation, it has been almost 3 years since I traveled here. I still remember at the beginning, he was very uncomfortable both physically and mentally, and became blind. Fortunately, time can dilute all pain. For 3 whole years of not seeing the sun, he has learned to taste loneliness and enjoy it in the dark world. A master is made up of loneliness and solitude. He often thought of this sentence, initially to console himself, but later it became a genuine recognition from the heart. Because he couldn't see things, he was also less tempted by external factors. Instead, he was able to calm down and have more time to study martial arts. In addition, he has excellent hearing in both ears and is skilled in rhythm. In the cultivation of the Heavenly Dragon and 8 tones, he can also be called 1,000 miles in a day, entering the realm at lightning speed. In addition, overcoming the numerous difficulties in martial arts, every progress can bring him the joy of success, and he gradually becomes addicted to this path. Effort will eventually yield rewards. His martial arts skills were originally very strong, but now they have increased and strengthened. As for the specific level of strength, it is necessary to find a few experts to verify it. Fortunately, the most essential skill in this martial arts world is the expert. After all, the Ming Dynasty in which he lived was completely a world of ancient dragon warriors formed by the combination of novels such as The Legend of Chu Liuxiang, The Legend of Lu Xiaofeng, The Unmatched Double Pride, Xiao Shilang, 7 Weapons, The Sword of the Third Young Master, and The Heartless Sword of the Love Swordsman. Inviting the Moon to the Flower-Moving Palace Master, Lianqing. Money Gang Leader, Shengguan Jinhong. Jellyfish Yin Ji. Famous Xia, Shenlang. One by one, beautiful and arrogant, one by one, powerful and domineering. Someone from the past is about to come and learn one by one. E.g., this book is about unlimited martial arts, traversing and gradually upgrading one by one. The first world is The Legend of Ancient Dragon Heroes, and the length may be longer. The second world is yet to be determined. E.g., seeking flowers, seeking evaluations, seeking monthly tickets, all kinds of requests. 006, Wulin Treasure, Golden Silk Armor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The snow is about to settle, and the wind is still uncertain. A carriage comes from the north and slowly enters a small town. The small town was already small and only had 1 inn. At this time, it was filled with travelers who were blocked by wind and snow, making it particularly crowded and lively. After Yuan Suiyun and his companions arrived here, they saw more than 10 empty escort carts covered with straw mats outside the yard. Under the eaves to the east, there was also a sauce-colored golden-bordered dart flag diagonally inserted. The dart flag was hunted and fluttered by the passing cold wind, making a loud noise. This is the escort flag of the Golden Lion Escort Agency. Li Xuanhuan only took a faint glance and recognized the origin of the dart flag. Golden Lion Escort Agency. Yuan Suiyun smiled and didn't say much. He tightened his tight snow-white fox fur and took a step inside. They were also lucky. Just as they arrived, a group of people packed their things and went upstairs to rest, leaving an empty table. After Yuan Suiyun and Li Xuanhuan sat down, Tai Chuanjia went to ask the waiter for a pot of wine and a few dishes. After returning, he sat quietly on a stool, like a statue made of steel, without saying a word. Li Xuanhuan is still cutting his portrait, with a focused and serious expression. Occasionally, he would drink a glass of wine to warm his body and chat with Yuan Suiyun. So, in the true sense, the only person who drinks is Yuan Suiyun. He didn't drink quickly, but he drank 1 glass after another, and his demeanor was elegant, as smooth as flowing clouds and water, very graceful and beautiful. Not long after, a pot of wine was about to bottom out. At this moment, 3 more people walked into the inn through a door behind them. They drove away a table of people, snatched a spot under the table, and started talking loudly, all about those knife-licking blood martial arts activities, as if afraid that others wouldn't know they were the big bodyguards of the Golden Lion Escort Agency. Li Xuanhuan couldn't help but look up, and quickly he recognized the chubby man with the loudest voice, who was known as Zhuge Lei, the Sword of the Wind. The other party clearly enjoyed the feeling of attracting attention from thousands of people, becoming more and more arrogant, pointing the sky and the earth, and boasting about their past heroic deeds with the other two people. Li Xuanhuan smiled and shook his head. Zhuge Lei was still the same as a decade ago, unchanged at all. He used to think that people like him who have no ability and love to show off usually don't live long, but now it seems that he is wrong. The other person is not only alive, but also very nourished. Fortunately, after entering the inn, this person never looked directly at anyone, so there is no need to worry about them recognizing him and causing trouble. Li Xuanhuan withdrew his gaze and was about to lower his head again to carve his portrait when he heard a light smile from Yuan Suiyun's mouth and said, "Zhuge Lei, the quick-wind sword. Oh, it seems that the person I need to wait for has arrived. Are you waiting for him?" Li Xuanhuan asked in astonishment. Yuan Suiyun said, "That's right, did you see Zhuge Lei carrying a yellow cloth bundle by his side?" Li Xuanhuan said truthfully. "There is a yellow cloth bundle that is now placed on his desk." At this point, his voice paused slightly before continuing. "If I'm not mistaken, there must be something unusual hidden within this seemingly ordinary bundle. Otherwise, as Brother Yuan, I'm just a Zhuge Lei and I don't have the right to make you wait for him." Yuan Suiyun smiled and said, "Of course, but for the sake of the golden armor in his hand, someone else wouldn't mind condescending and lowering it once." "Golden wire armor." Li Xuanhuan frowned and said, "I have also heard of this thing. Legend has it that wearing it on the body can prevent knives and guns from entering, water and fire from invading. However, based on my understanding of Brother Yuan, you probably don't value this thing very much." Yuan Suiyun poured a full glass of wine and smiled as he spoke. At that moment, Brother Li had just entered the border and probably didn't know the news of the Plum Blossom Thief's return to the martial arts world. This thief was as lecherous as life, and in recent times, he has committed more than 70 major crimes, tarnishing the innocence of many women. More than 90 wealthy Jianghu people have secretly agreed that whoever kills the Plum Blossom Thief will share 10% of their wealth with him. Even Lin Xianer, known as the #1 beauty in the Jianghu, publicly claims that regardless of the age of monks and laymen, she will marry anyone except for the Plum Blossom Thief. Li Xuanhuan exclaimed in surprise. "But what does this have to do with the golden silk armor?" Yuan Suiyun picked up his wine glass and patiently explained while drinking. "Because every person who dies under the command of the Plum Blossom Thief, regardless of their martial arts level, leaves a small hole in their body. Everyone also believes that this thief is skilled in hidden weapon martial arts and extremely powerful. As a result, to eliminate the Plum Blossom Thief, one must first obtain the golden silk armor, which has become the most widely circulated phrase in the martial arts world." Li Xuanhuan is well aware of the nature of people in the martial arts world to pursue fame and fortune. Nowadays, as long as you eliminate the Plum Blossom Thief, the towering reputation, the enormous wealth, and the stunning beauty, all three can belong to you. Who wouldn't be crazy about it? However, Wujing Mountain Villa has a foundation of over 300 years and a strong foundation. I don't care about those silver coins, do you think? Brother Yuan wants to marry the most beautiful woman in the martial arts world. Yuan Suiyun said coldly. Lin Xianer. Oh, this woman's style is too bad, she hasn't caught my eye yet. Although he didn't understand why Yuan Suiyun had such a bad attitude towards the most beautiful woman in the martial arts world, Li Xuanhuan still didn't pursue it too much and instead asked. Since that's the case, what is your purpose for taking this golden silk armor? Of course it's used as bait, you see. Isn't that why someone took the bait? As soon as Yuan Suiyun finished speaking, he saw the thick cotton curtain at the entrance of the inn rolled up by the wind, and two figures drifted in like snowflakes, e.g., seeking flowers, seeking evaluations, seeking monthly tickets, all kinds of requests. 007 Blue Blood Double Snakes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hooking. Scream. The cold wind was piercing, blowing frost-white snowflakes that surged, flipped, roared, and rolled straight into the room. The cold and chilly air, piercing the bones and muscles. If we follow the usual routine, some people can't help but curse loudly. However, the originally noisy lobby suddenly fell silent at this moment. Because the two uninvited guests who drifted in like snowflakes, when they landed, they fell silent and their high lightness skills made people stare at them. Their attire was also very special, wearing a bright red cloak and a tight-fitting black garment inside. After removing the top hat, two thin and ugly cheeks were exposed. The two of them look almost identical, except that the person on the left has a face as white as ice and snow, while the person on the right has a face as black as the bottom of a pot. Under the tense gaze of others, they slowly walked up to Zhuge Liang, with a pair of malicious and sharp eyes visible to him. At this moment, Zhuge Liang wanted to pretend not to see that neither of them could do it anymore, so he had to stand up and forced a smile, saying, "Two high-ranking names. Please forgive me for my awkwardness." Before he could finish speaking, the pale-faced person interrupted him. "Are you Zhuge Liang, the quick-wind sword?" His voice was sharp and rapid, making Zhuge Liang's hair stand on end. He quickly said, "No. I dare not." The dark-faced person sneered and glanced at the yellow cloth bundle on the table, saying, "Regardless of whether you dare or not, our brothers will take this package. As for people, if you want to survive, you can get out." Zhuge Liang's face instantly turned ugly. After hesitating for a moment, he gritted his teeth and said, "If my two friends want me to leave something, it's okay. But first, I need to show my true skills so that I can have an explanation when I go back." The person with a dark face smiled sadly and said, "What do you want?" Zhuge Liang stepped back a few steps, choked, drew his sword out of its sheath, and then picked up a dish of shrimp balls on the table with his backhand. Just listening to the wind of the sword hissing, the light of the sword turned like a drill, and he cut more than a dozen shrimp balls in half and fell to the ground in unison. His face was slightly smug, and he waved his hand and made a "please" gesture. "As long as the two of you can play with it in its original form, I will offer it with both hands. Otherwise, please leave." "Hey, can this kind of insect carving skill also be considered martial arts?" The dark-faced man sneered, and then took a long breath. The shrimp ball that had just fallen to the ground flew again, and then the dark light flashed away. All the shrimp balls in the sky disappeared in an instant, and he put them on a dark slender soft sword. Seeing this swordsmanship, Zhuge Liang's face turned pale as paper. Suddenly, he remembered two people in his heart and exclaimed in a loud voice, "Are you two? The blue blood twin snakes?" Upon hearing that these two people were from the Yellow River region, known as the notorious blue blood twin snakes in the underworld, the Black Snake and White Snake brothers, many people were immediately frightened and their expressions changed greatly. Their legs couldn't help but play the pipa. The Black Snake chuckled and said, "You can recognize us, and at least you're not blind yet. If you're willing to crawl around on the ground now, our brothers will immediately let you go. Otherwise, we'll not only leave your burden, but also your head." Zhuge Liang's face turned green and white, and he was stunned for a while before finally choosing to crawl on the ground and get up. Seeing his timid appearance, Li Xiaofeng let out a light sigh and murmured to himself, "So this person's temper has changed, no wonder he can live to this day." In his impression, Zhuge Liang was a complete madman, but now sigh. Over a decade, a person's edges have been worn away, giving him an inexplicable sense of what is and what is not. Taking a deep breath, Li Xiaofeng forcefully dispelled the chaotic thoughts in his mind. When he looked up again, he found that Yuan Suiyun, who was originally sitting opposite him, had disappeared for some time. At the same time, watching Zhuge Lei crawl on the ground like a dog, the lips of the blue blood double snakes curled slightly, and his smile was full of ridicule. However, soon they couldn't laugh anymore. "Kid, what are you doing? Put the things down for me quickly." The white snake shouted loudly. His voice was sharp and piercing, like a sharp blade scraping through the hearts of everyone. The vast majority of people felt a chill in their hearts, and their breathing became stagnant. Following the gaze of the white snake, a handsome young man dressed in a snow-white fox fur caught everyone's eye. He leaned against the counter, with a relaxed posture and a yellow cloth bundle in his hand. The reason why Zhuge Lei learned to crawl like a dog is because of this yellow cloth bundle. Even a fool can guess that there must be something unusual hidden inside. If it weren't for this, how could it have attracted criminals like the blue blood twin snakes to take over? People are curious, but everyone present can only restrain their curiosity and dare not interrupt and ask too many questions. People who know too much often bring what they know go to hell. What if I say no? Faced with the menacing gaze of the white snake, Yuan Suiyun smiled faintly as if he couldn't see it. "Okay, as long as your swordsmanship can surpass our brothers, not only is this burden yours, but even our brothers' heads are yours." The white snake spoke proudly. As he spoke, his wrist trembled, and a soft sword like a venomous snake appeared in his palm, shining brightly like a white rainbow. Although he did not see how Yuan Suiyun used any means to take away the yellow cloth bundle, there was one thing that remained unchanged, which was he has full confidence in his swordsmanship. If a swordsman lacks confidence in his own swordsmanship, no matter how much he practices it, it will be difficult for him to reach the pinnacle of elegance. Unfortunately, Yuan Suiyun also has great confidence in himself. He spoke calmly and slowly. "Since that's the case, I'll reluctantly give it a try." The white snake glared and let out a soft snort. "You don't have a sword on you, but there are quite a few people wearing swords on the field. So, I'll give you a chance to borrow a sword." Yuan Suiyun smiled and said in a benevolent manner, looking around. "Ladies and gentlemen, is anyone willing to lend me their sword?" As soon as these words were spoken, almost all those who carried swords became nervous, even daring not to breathe, afraid that Yuan Suiyun would borrow his sword from him. The white snake sneered and said, "I gave you the opportunity, but it seems like you haven't seized it." Yuan Suiyun shrugged his shoulders and said nonchalantly, "They don't want to borrow, I don't force it, fortunately I can still borrow from you." "Oh." The white snake squinted its eyes and curiously said, "How do you plan to borrow it?" Yuan Suiyun smiled lightly and said, "Oh, it's very simple. When you draw your sword, it will fall into my hand and be inserted into your own throat." Gazing intently at Yuan Suiyun, she suddenly burst into a wild laugh, thinking that it was the first time he had heard such absurd and bizarre words as he traversed the Yellow River. After a moment, the laughter gradually subsided, and a cold curve curved the corner of the white snake's lips. The soft sword trembled straight in the wind, and with a flash of cold light, it suddenly pierced E.g., seeking flowers, seeking evaluations, seeking monthly tickets, all kinds of requests. 008 Young Afei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dida. Dida. Blood slowly flowed along the edge of the blade, drop after drop, falling to the ground and blooming with crimson marks. A snow-white slender soft sword pierced the throat of the white snake and came out from the back of its neck. That's his soft sword. The sword hilt that was supposed to be held in his hand fell into Yuan Suiyun's hand at some point. Yuan Suiyun's gaze was desolate and lonely, like a black hole staring at him, and he said calmly, "I'm very clear. First, you didn't believe a single word of what Yuan said, but now you should believe it, right?" The white snake's face trembled, with bloodshot eyes wide open in anger. It opened its mouth, but only made a strange sound. Cluck. Cluck. He can't speak anymore. Not only him, but the vast majority of people present are speechless. They only saw the white snake wielding its sword just now, but in the blink of an eye, this person was stabbed in the throat by themselves. This eerie scene is like a white snake taking advantage of everyone's lack of attention and handing its soft sword to the opponent's hand, then letting them kill it. Black Snake also had a ghostly expression on his face, unable to believe everything he saw in front of him. Ha! Li Xuanhuan let out a long breath and regained consciousness first. He held the small knife in his hand, but due to excessive shock, he unconsciously shook it. The trembling tip of the knife made a fine mark on the wooden carving, causing flaws in the originally soft contour lines. But he has no time to care about these anymore. It is not easy to be able to strike first in a master's duel, but in contrast, it is even more difficult to strike later. Li Xuanhuan had long known that Yuan Suiyun's martial arts were very high, but now it seems that he is still somewhat underestimated. Seize the sword, take out the sword, the speed is too fast to describe with lightning and flint. On the other side, a young man who had just arrived but stopped outside the door also saw the sword just now. His eyes lit up as a result. Inside and outside the inn, truly see the people who made a move with Yuan Suiyun. Only he and Li Xuanhuan are there. Zhuge Lei naturally didn't see clearly, he only saw a little clearly. That's killing this young man wearing a snow-white fox fur is the only way to preserve his reputation. Staring at Yuan Suiyun's back, Zhuge Lei gritted his teeth and jumped up from the ground. His sword shot out like the wind, piercing straight at the back of the opponent's neck. In the quiet and audible inn, several uncontrollable screams of surprise suddenly rang out. Then, several shocked screams rang out. Zhuge Lei's sword, which condensed all his strength, did not pierce Yuan Suiyun's neck, but pierced his own throat. He, like the white snake, also handed his sword to Yuan Suiyun and opened his mouth, unable to speak. Cluck! Cluck! Yuan Suiyun held the handle of his sword and gently pushed it forward. Zhuge Lei had already stepped into the footsteps of the white snake, fell to the ground with a bang, and died from exhaustion. The black snake saw this and its pupils slightly narrowed. Its hand, which was originally held on the hilt of the sword, seemed to have been stung by a scorpion. It trembled suddenly and withdrew. Yuan Suiyun turned around calmly, staring at the black snake. He spoke and asked, "Would you like to give it a try too?" The black snake asked in a dry voice. "What are you trying?" Yuan Suiyun smiled politely and said, "Give it a try. Would you lend me your sword like they did?" No need." The black snake shook its head busily. Yuan Suiyun said calmly, "If you don't need it, then just stand still and don't move." The black snake instantly transformed into a statue, motionless, with only cold sweat the size of beans dripping down his face. Yuan Suiyun returned to his previous position, but did not sit down again. He whispered to Li Xuanhuan, "I'm leaving." Li Xuanhuan nodded very understanding. "You have already received what you want, so naturally it's time to leave." Yuan Suiyun smiled and walked out of the inn without even saying goodbye. There is a young man standing at the entrance of the inn. The boy's clothes were old and thin, but his appearance was very handsome. His thin lips were pursed into a line, appearing stubborn and indifferent. Standing here, it was like being in two different worlds from the people inside the door. When passing by the side of the young man, Yuan Suiyun's footsteps stopped suddenly and he glanced sideways at the sword at the young man's waist. That's a 3-foot-long iron plate. There is no blade, and even no hilt, only 2 pieces of cork are nailed to it, which looks very rudimentary. This kind of sword is difficult to even kill a chicken in the hands of many people, but in the hands of this young man, it can kill people. He is the future, flying swordsman. Afei. Yuan Suiyun turned his head and said to him, "Blue blood twin snakes, I killed one and left one for you. His head should be worth some money, at least it's enough to buy wine. Afei almost instinctively refused this kind offer, but after thinking for a moment, he nodded and said seriously. Thank you very much. I'll treat you to a drink another day. Okay, I'll wait for that day. Yuan Suiyun laughed heartily, like a gust of wind, drifting into the snowy sky, e.g., seeking flowers, seeking evaluations, seeking monthly tickets, all kinds of requests. 009 Finger Magic. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Frozen and snowy, covered in silver. The sky and earth are vast, almost one color. Yuan Suiyun carried a yellow cloth bundle in his hand, stepped on the snow, and walked on foot between the mountains and forests. His shoulders, eyebrows, and hair were already frosty white, and he was wearing a fox fur outside. From a distance, he looked like a refined ice demon snowman. Only knowledgeable old martial artists can understand that this is an illusion that can be created only when the internal skill cultivation is to the extreme, and the body's heat does not evaporate at all. Ding, congratulations to the host for accumulating 1000 experience points and obtaining the martial arts skill of Snap Finger Divine Skill. Ding, congratulations to the host for unlocking the achievement of entering the martial arts world for the first time and obtaining the elixir. 9 Flower Jade Dew Pill. Ding, may I ask if the host will immediately receive the reward? Ha! Watching the system message suddenly appear in the dark field of vision, Yuan Suiyun let out a long burst of turbid air and chose yes. In the next moment, the mind technique mnemonic of the divine power of the fingers and the prescription of the 9-flower jade dew pill were infused into his mind. Donji Divine Skill is the unique martial arts skill of Huang Yaoshi, the Peach Blossom Island Lord. It is unparalleled in the world, exquisite and mysterious, with divine finger power. To cultivate this martial arts skill, one must first move the true qi from the dantian to the giant bone acupoint on the shoulder, then to the tianjing acupoint on the elbow, and then to the yangqi acupoint on the wrist. It will rotate 3 times in a row in the Yanghua, Jianghu, and Yangqi acupoints, and finally be ejected from the fingertips. The momentum is unparalleled, powerful enough to shatter gold and jade. Jiuhuayulu pill. It is also Huang Yaoshi's unique spiritual medicine. This medicine is made from rare medicinal herbs, combined with dew on 9 petals in the morning. It has a vermilion red appearance and a refreshing fragrance, with the effects of treating diseases, tonifying the mind, strengthening the body, and prolonging life. The prescription of Jiuhuayulu pill can be handed over to someone who is skilled in refining medicine to refine some, and this bullet finger divine power can also make up for some of my shortcomings in finger techniques. Although it may not be very good, it cannot be called too bad. As he murmured to himself, Yuan Suiyun weighed the yellow cloth bundle in his hand again. Nowadays, there are countless people in the world who want to get this thing like crucian carp crossing the river. These people should also be able to provide him with a lot of experience value. However, to unlock achievements, one still needs to focus on the weapon list. After becoming the top scorer in the weapon spectrum, I believe the achievement rewards obtained are definitely much better than low-level achievements like entering the martial arts world for the first time. TSK, I'm really looking forward to it. After whispering, Yuan Suiyun restrained his mind and continued to bury his head on the road. I don't know how long it has been. Suddenly, woo-woo. Woo-woo. A gust of cold wind blew softly, causing the branches to tremble and sway. The snow on top rustled down, and the jade-like snow foam drifted in the wind. Killing qi. Yuan Suiyun's eyebrows twitched slightly. After becoming blind, although unable to see things, there must be gains and losses. His hearing, smell, and even sensation all become extremely sensitive, far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. The murderous aura that blends into the wind and snow, although subtle and imperceptible, is extremely conspicuous to Yuan Suiyun, no different from lighting a torch in the darkness. The cold wind blows through the Luoxue River, and the snow covers Zhongzhou. This is indeed a killing day. Yuan Suiyun caught a few falling snowflakes with his hand, blew his lips, and watched them drift towards the distance, then continued. But I'm in a hurry. Since everyone has arrived, please show your face. As soon as the words fell, a deafening long smile came from the forest. I, Cha Meng, am the chief escort of the Golden Lion Escort Agency. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Amidst laughter, a one-armed old man with towering cheekbones, a pale golden face, and eagle-like gaze, had already strode out of the forest on the left. At the same time, an old man appeared in the forest on the right side. He was thin and had very little flesh all over, as if a gust of wind could knock him down. Now, as he walked slowly, there were no footprints on the snow, demonstrating extraordinary proficiency in lightness skills. Yuan Suiyun turned to the one-armed old man and spoke. Cha Meng, Golden Lion. Oh, I've heard of your name. If you want to avenge Zhuge Liang, you can start now. Cha Meng shook his head and smiled, saying. How can Zhuge Liang blame the young master for seeking his own death? To be honest, I have no intention of making trouble with the young master. It's just that the burden in your hand was entrusted to me by someone else with a lot of money to escort the Golden Lion Escort Agency. If there is a mistake, our agency's reputation for decades will be destroyed from now on. As long as the young master is willing to return this item, I will leave immediately without any hesitation. After hearing this, Yuan Suiyun did not give a clear answer, but turned his head and asked the skinny old man. Cha Meng came to me to retrieve the escort item. What about you? You're here to guard, are you treating me to a drink? The skinny old man said with a gloomy smile, if you're willing to give me the package, I'll treat you to any kind of wine you want. Yuan Suiyun gave a thumbs up and said. Brave. Do you dare to ask for a noble name? The skinny old man said in a hoarse voice. Old man Yu'er. It turns out to be Mr. Yu'er, who is known for his divine action without shadow. With a pause in his voice, Yuan Suiyun turned towards a deserted direction and spoke loudly. So, what about the four friends here? What should we call them? Are they also here for this burden? E.g., seeking flowers, seeking evaluations, seeking monthly tickets, all kinds of requests. 010 Jianghu, after all, is a place where you speak with your fists. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kaka. Kaka. With the sound of stepping on the snow on the soles of their shoes, four people walked out of the forest. They are already quite old, but they are dressed in colorful clothes, dressed like children. Although they have an ugly appearance, they tend to frown, laugh, and act like mischievous children, making people feel goosebumps all over. We are disciples of the Jile Cave Master in the Miao region. Kid, if you're interested, just obediently offer up that bundle with both hands, and you can also avoid the pain of the 5 poisons devouring your heart. Otherwise, humph. The yellow-clothed boy among the four stared at Yuan Suiyun, unabashedly threatening, as if he had not taken him seriously. Seeing him so recklessly, Yuan Suiyun didn't get angry either. Instead, he exclaimed in amazement. It's the 5 poisons again, it's also heart-wrenching. Just hearing the name is scary enough, it's just a burden. There's no need to be so ruthless. If you want it so badly, then take it. After speaking, he raised his hand and the yellow cloth bundle shot towards the boy in yellow like an arrow leaving the string. Cha Meng, Mr. Yu'er, and 3 other boys were all shocked when they saw this. They never expected Yuan Suiyun to hand over the thing so easily. The boy in yellow was also momentarily stunned, and immediately became overjoyed. His 5 fingers were like hooks, grabbing the yellow cloth bundle flying towards him. In the next moment, he seemed to have been struck by lightning, his face flushed, his mouth and nose spraying blood, and he flew backwards with a loud bang. After landing, my whole body twitched a few times and then fell silent. And the yellow cloth bundle, grabbed by Yuan Suiyun in the air, seemed to be pulled back into his hands by an invisible thread. He sighed with regret. It's a pity that his martial arts skills haven't reached home yet. Taking on a burden, he ended up playing with himself. It's a waste of my good intentions. As he spoke, he looked at the other 3 boys with empty and lifeless eyes. You 3. Don't know if you can pick them up or not. Gulu. The 3 of them took a step back together and nervously swallowed their saliva. The boy in black creaked. Well. I think you might as well ask Mr. Yuer first, or check the old man. If it's based on seniority, among the people present, they are the seniors. You're right too. Yuan Suiyun nodded in agreement, weighing the yellow cloth bundle on his hand while turning his head and asking. Yu Xin. Senior, what did you say? Mr. Yuer, with a cold face, said in a deep voice. Oh, what can I say? Now, I have changed my mind. As for this burden, it's better for me to take it myself than for you to send it over. Yuan Suiyun frowned slightly and said in surprise. Do you want to forcibly rob? Mr. Yuer grinned and admitted candidly. Indeed, you have this intention. Anyway, you don't intend to hand it over honestly. We can't continue to let you play like a monkey. Chief Escort Cha, do you think so? Cha Meng said with a solemn expression. I came here to retrieve the escort. Since this young master is unwilling to return it, I have no choice but to apologize. Upon hearing this, Yuan Suiyun suddenly laughed happily. It should have been like this long ago, in the martial arts world. After all, it's a place where you talk with your fists. You just want me to hand over the things, and I only know how to give him 4 words. It's just a pipe dream. Now that everything is open, what are you waiting for? Come and grab it. He hooked his fingers, looking very light and reckless. The 5 people present couldn't help but look at each other and exchange glances. They all came for the golden silk armor, and no matter how they looked on their faces, they never dared to underestimate Yuan Suiyun in their hearts. The blue blood twin snakes have a notorious reputation and are not ordinary people, but the white snake and the twin snakes unexpectedly fell into the hands of this young man in just one move, and none of them were able to achieve the skill of borrowing materials to transmit power, just now. Since one person alone cannot win, then, let's go together. Cha Meng let out a loud shout and took the lead in raising his palm to attack. However, the first person to be killed was Mr. Yuer. His nickname is Shen Xing Wuing. Although his right leg is naturally deformed and a cripple, in terms of lightness skills alone, he is the tallest among the 5. I saw him as a ghost, like a ghost, dragging his long afterimage, circling around Yuan Suiyun for half a circle, waving his hair with both hands and various hidden weapons, shooting out like a gust of wind and rain. Bone-piercing nails, iron thistles, locust stones. There are 18 types of hidden weapons that can be named. But Yuan Suiyun just shook his body and the person disappeared. Bang! 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 All hidden weapons fell to the ground, splashing with fluffy snowflakes. Xiao! The boy in black widened his eyes and shouted out loud. Little! What Mr. Yuer's inner alarm sounded loudly, and before he could make any movement, he felt his head sink. The figure of Yuan Suiyun appeared on top of his head at some point, tiptoeing up and lightly stepping down, as if it were light and heavy. Amidst the snowflakes, his lean body was like a wooden stake, fiercely stepped into the snow and unable to even see his head, just like his hidden weapons. All of this may seem slow, but in reality, it happens between lightning and flint. Heart. Until now, the boy in black finally managed to finish speaking. Unfortunately, it's already late. Cha Meng's attack was also delayed by 1 step. No, half a step. His right palm exuded a metallic luster, and he used his move straight, rolling up strong winds and shooting towards Yuan Suiyun, with a hint of clumsiness surpassing cleverness. Ha! There was no change in the expression on Yuan Suiyun's face, and his right palm had a faint purple-red color, without any fancy, and he went straight ahead. Boom! Amidst the deafening roar, Cha Meng's once proud palm power dissipated at a single touch, and his right arm was shattered by a powerful force. His elbow turned backwards, his bone spurs pierced through his flesh, and shocking blood splattered out. His internal organs were crushed into minced meat with a surge of palm power, and he stumbled back a few steps before collapsing to the ground. This is the secret school's big handprint. How could it be? Before he could finish speaking, Cha Meng was already out of breath. In his angry eyes, there was still a hint of disbelief. Obviously, he had never expected that his decades of hard training in the Golden Lion palm would be so vulnerable to a single blow. Regarding this, Yuan Suiyun just smiled. With his exceptional martial arts skills, coupled with his ultimate, secret school handprint, even if the great Lama who has refined this martial arts meets him, he will still be beaten to death. What is it to be a mere Zha Meng? E.g., seeking flowers, seeking evaluations, seeking monthly tickets, all kinds of requests.